going to read our big book story today and talk about the story a little bit more and talk about each section of the story. Remember, this is a fantasy story, and we're going to review what we know about fantasy stories. A fantasy story includes events that are not made up by the author and they didn't really happen. And it tells about things that could not happen in real life, such as animals talking. So, how do we know this is a fantasy story? Let's look at each characteristic. To begin with, we have the dinosaur here riding a car. Alright, stop and think about this a minute. Do we actually see dinosaurs out and about when we're walking? No. We could go to museums and see the bones of what were once dinosaurs that were alive, but we don't go down the street and meet a dinosaur. So, right away, considering it's a story about dinosaurs and it's not an informational text telling us facts about dinosaurs, we know it's a fantasy because even if it was talking about things dinosaurs used to do, they would never ride on top of a car like that. Look at the smile on the dinosaur's face. Do you think you would ever see a dinosaur smiling? No, they wouldn't smile at all, let alone when they were riding in a car. Okay, look at this teacher. She seems to almost be clapping at the show and tell. Do you think a teacher would be clapping at a dinosaur bringing in a monkey for show and tell? Probably not, nope. So we know this is a fantasy. Okay, let's read the book and we are going to stop and I'm going to ask you questions about each page.
How Do Dinosaurs Go to School? By Jane Yolen. Illustrated by Mark Teague. How does a dinosaur go to school? Does he walk? Does he ride in a busy carpool?
Do you know what this word right here is? It is our sight word for the week. Do you remember what it is? It is the word to. The word to. Okay, we're going on.
Does he drag his long tail? Is he late for the bus? Does he stomp all 4 feet? Does he make a big fuss?
So I read that the dinosaur might make a big fuss. What do you think that would be like? Can you see a picture in your head of what a dinosaur might do if he was making a fuss? I see his big feet and tail in the picture. I can picture him in my mind running and yelling and trying to catch the bus. I imagine that he is so heavy that the ground is probably shaking as he's running it, or as he's running toward the bus.
When he gets to the school, does he roughhouse and punch? Does he make a quick grab for a classmate's packed lunch?
What is the dinosaur doing in this picture? He's roughhousing. How do you know he's roughhousing? Well, he has a boy picked up, doesn't he? Looks like he's playing kind of rough and playing hard with that boy because he has him high in the air. What else is he doing? What's he doing with this paw right over here? Looks like he's trying to grab the girl's lunch. Now, how do we know this? We don't always have the ability yet to be able to read these big words. But remember, if we look at the pictures, it can sometimes help us to know what's happening in the story.
Does he race up the stairs right ahead of the bell?
We've been talking a lot about punctuation. This right here, and I will draw it bigger so you can see it. That is a question mark. Now, a lot of the sentences we've been talking about end in periods, but anytime we are asking a question, our sentence should end in that question mark right there.
Does he interrupt class with his own show and tell?
I can picture in my mind giving a show and tell. Now, we haven't done any show and tells yet in class, but that's when you might bring in a toy or a picture that you drew and you stand up in front of the class and you kind of tell about it. And I can also picture a big dinosaur interrupting. I see him as being so big and so loud that the other kids look at him instead of the girl who's talking. I think this would make me feel sad if I was trying to do a show and tell and that happened.
Does a dinosaur yell?
Look at this page right here and look at the picture. Does the dinosaur look like he's yelling? He looks like he's yelling pretty loud, doesn't he? Yes, he does. And why do you think he might yell? What do you see in the picture that might make you think of a reason that he's yelling? Look what he's holding in his hand. That looks like a dinosaur tooth to me. Do you think a dinosaur would yell if he lost a tooth? Maybe, because I know when my teeth would come out when I was a child, they'd get really sore and hurt right before they'd come out. So I'll bet that's why the dinosaur is yelling.
And when in the classroom, plunked down in his chair, does a dinosaur fidget, his tail in the air?
Did you hear any words in there that began with an sound? Listen again.
And when in the classroom, plunked down in his chair, does a dinosaur fidget, his tail in the air?
We have in. We have three of the same word that starts with the sound. What letter makes the sound? What letter is this right here at the beginning? That is the lowercase I. And the lowercase I, whether it's lower or uppercase, makes the sounds most of the time. There's one other sound it makes, and we'll talk about that later.
Does he growl during chalk talks or roar out of turn?
How does the teacher feel in this picture? And how do you know? I think, looking at it, that the teacher is angry because the dinosaur is roaring out of tone. And the reason I think that is the look on her face. It looks to me like it's an angry face. She's not smiling. She's not laughing. I think she's angry.
Does he make it too hard for the others to learn?
We're going to reread this, and I want you to listen for the word that begins with the sound.
Does he make it too hard for the others to learn?
Right here it is. It begins with that letter I, and the word is it. It. You hear that is sound at the beginning?
Does he stir up the classroom by making a noise?
How do you think that a dinosaur would feel about making a noise? Look at this dinosaur here. What do you see in the illustration that makes you know how he feels about making a noise? I think that he thinks it's funny to make a noise because to me, right here, he has his claw over his mouth. He's turning his head from the teacher and he has his claw over his mouth. It looks to me like he's trying to hide the fact that he's smiling and that the children are laughing right here. So I think Mr. Dinosaur thinks that it's funny. Is it funny to make noises when he starts to stir up the class? No, it's not.
Does he tease all the girls? Does he pick on the boys? No.
So I read the word no on this page, but the author doesn't finish the sentence. She's telling us the dinosaur doesn't do these things, but she's kind of letting us hang and leading us into something else. So I wonder what the rest of her no is going to be.
A dinosaur carefully raises his hand. He helps out his classmates with projects they've planned.
So shut your eyes. Can you picture in your head a dinosaur sitting beside you in the classroom at the desk, and he has his hand in the air waiting for me to call on him? Why do you think he's raising his hand? Probably because he has something to say.
At recess he plays with a number of friends and growls at the bullies till bullying ends.
So here I see that the dinosaur is looking at a boy who's being mean to another boy. I imagine and picture in my head that the dinosaur is growling at the boy because he's being a bully. I think this is going to scare the boy and it's going to make him stop bullying the other children.
He tidies his desk. Then he leaps out the door.
What is the dinosaur doing here? He's jumping or leaping out the door. Now, how do you know? Because you can look at the picture and both of his feet are in the air and it looks like he's in the middle of a jump. He also has his backpack on, so he's going home. He's excited to go home and he's leaping toward the door.
Good work. Good work, little dinosaur.
So, why do you think the author wrote this story? Every story that's written out there, the author had a reason for writing it. Why do you think she wrote this one? She might have wanted to remind us of how we should behave in school and remind us of some of the things that maybe we shouldn't do, but she wanted to do it in a fun way, so she used a dinosaur to help teach us about the rules of being in school. Thank you for reading with me today.